There is a war happening right now. And most people do not even know they are losing it. It is not a war you can see with your eyes, but it is the war that determines everything. Tonight, I am going to show you how to win the battle for your mind. My beloved, I want you to think about something with me. Every action you have ever taken, every word you have ever spoken, every decision you have ever made, it all started in one place: your mind. Before your hand moved, your mind commanded it. Before your mind formed, the words spoke. Your mind formed the words. Before your feet walked in a certain direction, your mind charted the course. Your mind is the control center of your entire existence. It is the headquarters of your life. And if the enemy can capture your mind, he does not need to fight you anywhere else, because whoever controls your mind controls your life. Because whoever controls your life. This is why the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. You are not what you say you are. You are not what people say you are. You are what you think you are. Your thoughts are the architects of your reality. They are the builders of your world. And if your thoughts are corrupted, if your mind is polluted, if your thinking is twisted, then it does not matter how much you pray. It does not matter how much you fast. It does not matter how many services you attend. Your life will reflect the chaos in your mind. I want to tell you about something I have observed over many years of ministry. I have seen people who are blessed, but they live cursed. I have seen people who have everything they need, but they live in constant anxiety. I have seen people who are healthy, but they are convinced they are sick. I have seen people who are loved, but they feel rejected. I have seen people who are successful, but they feel like failures. And the reason for this disconnect is simple. Their reality does not match their thinking. God has blessed them in the natural, but they have cursed themselves in their mind. And because the battlefield of life is in the mind, they are living defeated lives, even though they have been given victorious circumstances. Let me take you to the story of the 10 spies in the book of Numbers. God had already promised the children of Israel the land of Canaan. He had already told them, I have given you this land. Past tense, it was already theirs. All they had to do was go in and possess it. But when they sent the spies to scout the land, 10 of them came back with a negative report. They said, the land is good, yes, but the people are giants. The cities are fortified. We cannot take it. And then they said something very revealing. They said, we were like grasshoppers in our own sight. And so we were in their sight. Do you see what happened? They saw themselves as grasshoppers. And so everyone else saw them as grasshoppers. It was not the giants that defeated them. It was their own thinking. It was the image they had of themselves in their mind. And because they could not see themselves as conquerors, they could not become conquerors. Their mind had already determined their destiny. Their thoughts had already written their story. And no amount of divine promise, no amount of supernatural provision, no amount of God's presence could override what they believed about themselves in their mind. But there were two men who thought differently. Joshua and Caleb. They saw the same giants. They faced the same challenges. They walked through the same land. But their report was different. They said, we are well able to overcome. Let us go up at once and possess the land. Same situation, different mindset, different outcome. The 10 died in the wilderness, but Joshua and Caleb entered the promised land. Why? Because they controlled their mind instead of letting their mind control them. My beloved, this is the lesson I need you to grasp tonight. Your mind is either your greatest asset or your greatest enemy. It is either the gateway to your destiny or the graveyard of your dreams. It is either the throne room where God speaks or the playground where the enemy destroys. And the deciding factor is not what happens to you. The deciding factor is how you think about what happens to you. Two people can go through the same trial, and one will come out bitter, while the other comes out better. Two people can face the same loss, and one will be destroyed while the other will be developed. The difference is not the circumstance. The difference is the mind. Now, let me tell you where the battle begins. It begins with a thought. Just one thought. The enemy does not need to possess your body to destroy your life. All he needs to do is plant a thought in your mind. And if you entertain that thought, if you meditate on that thought, if you agree with that thought, it becomes a stronghold. The Bible calls it a stronghold in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. It says we are pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. A stronghold is a fortified place. It is a mental structure that has been built over time through repeated thinking. And once a stronghold is established, it becomes very difficult to tear down. This is why people struggle for years with the same fears, the same insecurities, the same addictions, the same negative patterns, not because they are weak, not because they do not love God, but because there is a stronghold in their mind that has not been demolished. There is a way of thinking that has become so deeply rooted that it feels like their identity. It feels like who they are. And until that stronghold is pulled down, they will keep living in cycles, repeating the same mistakes, attracting the same problems, wondering why their life never changes. Let me give you an example. There are people who grew up in poverty, and even though they are now adults, even though they have jobs, even though they have opportunities, they still think like poor people. They still see themselves as victims. They still believe that they are not worthy of abundance. And because of that mindset, because of that stronghold of poverty thinking, they sabotage every opportunity. They turn down promotions. They refuse help. They make decisions that keep them stuck, not because they want to be poor, but because their mind has been programmed to believe that poverty is their portion. And until they renew their mind, until they demolish that stronghold, they will never walk in the financial blessing that God has prepared for them. There are people who were hurt in the past, and even though years have gone by, even though the person who hurt them is no longer in their life, they are still living as victims. They still see every new person through the lens of that old pain. They still expect to be betrayed. They still build walls to protect themselves. And because of that mindset, because of that stronghold of rejection, They push away the very people God is sending to bless them. They destroy good relationships because they cannot let go of the bad ones. Not because they want to be alone, but because their mind has been conditioned to believe that pain is inevitable. And until they renew their mind, until they break that stronghold, they will never experience the love, the connection, the intimacy that God has designed for them. This is why the Apostle Paul says in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation does not happen through information. Transformation happens through renewal. You can know all the scriptures. You can memorize all the promises. You can attend every conference. But if your mind is not renewed, if your thinking is not transformed, if your mental patterns are not changed, then nothing in your life will change. You will have knowledge, but no transformation. You will have information, but not manifestation. You will have potential, but no actualization. So let me ask you a very direct question. What thoughts have you been thinking? What are you meditating on throughout the day? What are you replaying in your mind when you are alone? When no one is watching? When you are lying in bed at night? Because those thoughts are not neutral. Those thoughts are creating your reality. Those thoughts are shaping your future. Those thoughts are either building you up or tearing you down. And if you do not take control of your thought life, if you do not guard your mind, if you do not monitor what you allow to take root in your mental space, then you will wake up one day and realize that your mind has been hijacked. Your thinking has been corrupted. And you have become a prisoner in your own head. The enemy knows this. He knows that if he can control your thoughts, he can control your life. He can control your life. This is why he bombards you with negative thoughts. Thoughts of fear, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of inadequacy, thoughts of failure, thoughts of shame, thoughts of condemnation. He whispers to you constantly, you are not good enough. You are never going to make it. You are a failure. You are worthless. You are worthless. You are unlovable. You are beyond help. And if you are not careful, if you do not recognize his voice, if you do not reject his lies, you will start to believe them. You will start to agree with them. And once you agree with them, they become your truth. Not God's truth, not biblical truth, but your personal truth. The truth you live by. The truth that governs your decisions. The truth that determines your destiny. But I want to tell you something tonight that might set you free. You do not have to accept every thought that comes into your mind. You are not obligated to believe everything you think. You have authority. You have power. You have the ability to choose which thoughts you will entertain and which thoughts you will reject. The Bible does not say you will never have a negative thought. It says bring every thought into captivity. That means you are going to have thoughts that do not align with God. You are going to have thoughts that contradict his word. You are going to have thoughts that try to pull you into fear, into worry, into despair. But you do not have to let those thoughts stay. You do not have to give them a seat at the table of your mind. You can capture them. You can reject them. You can reject them. And this is where most believers struggle. They think that because a thought came into their mind, it must be true. They think that because they feel a certain way, it must be reality. But feelings are not facts. Thoughts are not truth. Just because you think something does not make it so. Just because you feel something does not mean it is real. And if you are going to control your mind before it controls you, you have to learn to discern the difference between what you think and what God says, between what you feel and what is true, between the voice of the enemy and the voice of the Father. So as we close this first part, I want to plant a seed in your spirit. The battle for your life is being fought in your mind. And if you lose the battle in your mind, you will lose the war in your life. But if you win the battle in your mind, everything else will fall into place. Your emotions will stabilize. Your decisions will improve. Your relationships will flourish. Your purpose will become clear. Because when your mind is aligned with God, when your thoughts are in agreement with His word, when your thinking is rooted in truth, you become unshakable. You become the person God created you to be.